John Maxwell writes The Law of Attraction. I'm nothing like them. I'm a skinny Asian. And then, that still small voice, I'm looking in the mirror. I said, Lord, it's stressful. My kids even don't want to come to church. It's, Dad, I'm scared. Oh, because we'd have fights. We'd have demonic manifestations. And
yeah, you did.
The Lord said, no, you're just like them. That's why they're coming.
Yeah.
That's why I'm sending them.
Yeah.
It's not what you look like on the outside. It's who you are on the inside. Essentially, the Lord was saying, you're actually a moke.
A moke. I get it.
You were shaped in Kalihi, not Kahala. You look on the outside like Kahala.
Yeah.
But on the inside, you're Kalihi, and they can tell you understand them, you relate to them, and you connect with it. Once I accepted that, things changed.
What's up, everybody? This is Mike, and welcome to the Pound for Pound Leader podcast. I am your host. My name is mikekai, the pastor of Inspire Church and the founder of the Inspire Collective. And today is going to be an awesome day because once in a while I get to interview somebody who's local from Hawaii, and I don't do it very often. Usually it's a guest speaker, someone from the mainland or another country, but thought I'd go and check of the gems in my own backyard. And in my own backyard is one of the best pastors that I know. He just retired about a year ago and pastored a great church, and he's always been a mentor to me ever since we started our church over 22 years ago. And so Pastor Norman Nakanishi to me is a powerhouse. He might be short, but he's a giant on the inside. He's one of the greatest pastors in the state. And you're going to love his testimony, sharing about how he came to the Lord, how he started his church, and leadership lessons along the way. So enjoy this podcast. Hey, if you're looking for a coach, every pastor needs a pastor, every coach needs a coach. And if you're not learning, you're not growing. And so I'm one of those people that's always growing. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm either learning from YouTube, from books that I read, or blogs, or podcasting, all of that. And so what I want to share with you is my great life, and if you join it, I'm going to give you what I would say is the secret sauce, so to speak, of what makes life work. But the great life is all about putting together what God has called us to, right? In John chapter 10, verse 10, Jesus said, I come that you might have life and have it abundantly. That's the great life. And so find your secret sauce. Let's see what God can do with that. So join me. We'd love to have you. Anyway, let's get ready for an incredible podcast for my good friend, Doctor, I'm already elevated him. He should be Pastor Norman Nakanishi. Hello.
Wow.
Hello.
I feel like I'm in Los Angeles.
Hey.
Hollywood. How you doing, Mike? Welcome back. Boy, it's a lot of cameras.
Oh, yeah.
Gee, what happened to the one? Congratulations. Yes. Wow.
No, I'm excited to have you. Thank you for making time.
Yo, thank you, Mike, for allowing me to be here, having me. And hopefully, I can serve you and speak into whatever can help the larger community, the broader picture.
Oh, you have helped so much for over the years, and for the people that are listening on this podcast or watching the podcast, you've been one of those guys that have been definitely constant. You know, you're born here, raised here, built an incredible church, great legacy.
Which I'm no longer the pastor of.
Which you're no longer the pastor of. Oh, you must make that very clear.
It's been a year and a half
Praise
now.
the Lord. How do you feel?
I feel great. It's
feel
better.
Great?
It's better.
Yeah?
Yeah, during COVID, when I was, getting ready to hand it over, everything was online. I looked at Billy, and I kept looking at Billy. I looked at myself. I went, he's so good looking, so handsome, so young, so smart, so eloquent, so charismatic. I said, I need to get out of the way. Yeah.
At what age did you come to that decision, though?
I seriously began to process transition 7 years before I did it.
Okay.
Because you got to start internally visualizing it.
Yeah.
Who the persons that could take over,
yeah.
letting go of your emotions, letting go of all that history. And that was a 7-year process.
But you set up the generation very, very well. You got them into an incredible opportunity for building, which was not easy to do in Hawaii. For most people who are in Hawaii, they don't realize, even outside of Hawaii, how difficult it is to get a building, and a game-changing building.
Yeah.
And game-changing buildings are very, very difficult to come by. And so you got one, I got one, praise the Lord. But that's just the beginning. So you set up the next generation. So when you think about the 7 years of you, what was the process of that succession when you handed it off to the next senior leader?
Well, first part, I had to kind of really visualize and envision myself not being the leader and someone else being the leader.
Yeah.
And you like an athlete, you visualize, you practice, you simulate. And what that did was it unhinged my emotions. I remind myself, this is the Lord's church, it's not my church, right? I'm a steward, not an owner.
Yeah.
Then I began talking to people who did it.
Yeah.
Successfully.
Also,
of course,
there's not a lot of successes in that area.
Yeah, you're right. And so even those who did it successfully admit that, they made some mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
And so I read a lot,
Okay.
talked to people a lot. I tried to pick the right people.
Right.
So that informed me by lessons that were learned, and they were all helpful. So I didn't feel alone.
Yeah.
I had predecessors. I had pace setters. And it gave me guardrails and guide rails so that when I did it, I felt fairly confident. And you know what? Honestly, Mike, it's gone really well. The process was smooth.
Okay.
In fact, the outcomes a year and a half later, because you judge the success of something not by how it feels in the moment or after you have the transition commissioning service, but afterwards. So at a year and a half later, I feel really good about it.
That's
and the
awesome.
church continues to grow,
Okay.
both numerically and financially. I love my role. I think what I've learned is the doors that open after you let go are the ones that fit your age-appropriate life phase.
Yeah. Wow.
Like being here,
Yeah.
right? You know how to plumb old guys. Older guys, right? The OG.
There
so to
are,
speak.
because they have so much to give to us. You know what I mean? They have so much. See, what we think is sometimes, out with the old, in with the new, and that the older person doesn't have. They're irrelevant. That's not true
It's
at
both
all.
and. It's both and. Yeah.
Yeah. So what challenges did you experience that you did not expect?
You know what? I focused so much on my transition to immediate successors, but I didn't anticipate that the transitional effect would affect those below, deeper into the organization or deeper into the church, that they would have to get used to their new leader, and the new leaders would want to do things a little differently.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so if I could do it all over again, I probably would have prepared working with all the congregational leaders, site leaders, accordingly. But again, it's all hindsight.
Yeah, it's all hindsight. Yeah.
Right? You're so focused on making sure you do it right to the immediate guys, but then there's the underneath guys.
Have you thought about writing a book up about it that other pastors could read on transitional leadership?
Well, I've written a blog that's gotten a lot of hits.
Okay.
People, they like podcasts today, right?
Yeah.
And they reading sometimes. So I put it in, real simple, kind of outdated webpage, normannakanishi.com, leadership training guides. Well, that's gotten a lot of hits. And that transition one and succession one in particular, they said, thank you for just putting it in bullet points. And I don't have to read a whole book to get the germ of it.
Wow.
So in my own self-acclaimed brilliance, and plus not wanting to write a whole book because that's a lot of work, which I still will do, I thought the first step was get stuff out.
It's always AI though. No, just kidding.
Yeah, Chat GPT among others. We can cheat, right? Yeah. But
keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, I should consider that. So I needed to get it out of me first in bullet points.
Yeah.
The next phase will be a book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, did you in any part make sure? Because it's really important for Paris and Billy. For those of you who don't know Paris and Billy are the ones that have basically running the church. Billy's the senior pastor, right? And Paris is the executive pastor.
Yeah, we call him the bishop, oversight pastor.
Okay, so
organizational.
He's been under you for how many years?
Too many, he would say.
You would say too many? I don't think he would.
Well, I was his junior high teacher.
Okay, that's a long time.
And basketball coach. So, and then, so he was with me from the year 2000. So by the time we transitioned, it was 22 years.
Yeah. Wow. So were they ready to honor you properly?
Yes.
Okay, because to me that's a big one.
Yes.
That next generation has to bring great honor to the founding pastor. Great honor in the sense of you can preach whenever you want to preach. Here's a parting gift. Here's a continuation of a level of compensation for being the overseer, for being, I think that's important. I think making sure that you still have a voice, even though they're the leaders. And are you on the board at all, or the council?
I'm the president of the board. So our denomination, our family of every nation, right?
Yeah.
So they weighed in on that. So it wasn't just them, it's our board, every nation's board.
Yeah.
And it was just a wonderful process. I've chosen to really make them the boss and let go. So I preach when they want me to preach.
Yeah.
I intentionally try to get out of their way, stay out of their way. And what used to be orders now are suggestions and recommendations.
Okay.
And I have to realize it's up to the Lord and up to them whether they want to listen.
So
and I'm free of it.
Okay, so I was watching two great coaches on ESPN who have retired, Mike Krzyzewski and Roy Williams. Right?
Oh,
North Carolina,
yeah.
Duke. Roy Williams? I think it's Roy Williams.
Yeah, he's Kansas.
North Carolina?
He was at Kansas.
Yeah, he's at
Carolina.
Kansas.
Yeah.
Right. And they were talking about letting go of the reins of leadership and being able to trust the next generation.
Yes.
And they stepped out at the right time. Roy Williams said, I stepped out when I thought I was no longer going to be at the highest level that I could be. So he stepped out. But every time there's a Carolina game, Roy Williams is sitting on the first row corner loge. And the camera always pans toward him, even though they've got Hubert Davis coaching, right? They pan to him.
Right.
And he waved off the camera like, get off me.
Yeah, I'm like that.
Get off me.
That's me.
But he's there.
Yeah.
My question is, how many services do you attend now?
I don't go to the main campus.
Okay.
Because I have a role. I'm still on payroll. So I work for those that used to work for me.
Okay.
Right. I take orders where I used to give orders.
So you're on assignment, and you're going to each campus to bolster those campuses.
I go to the littler campuses, right? You
Yep.
know, I'm getting my groove back just with the drums, and I jumped on at one of the other downtown campuses.
You play drums? I know you played drums in a previous life.
You give me 3 months, and I'll push anybody.
Hey, I'm the same way. Give me that microphone. Let me lead worship. I'm gonna lead that song, right, Darian?
Yeah, I can brag about that now because I'm not the other guy, right? I'm not the pastor anymore.
Yeah.
But, I just do that to create attention so we can recruit musicians.
Yeah.
So I preach where they want me to preach. I consider it an honor to preach, and I love doing the smaller rooms now. Maybe it's a sign of age, Mike, but I love the smaller where I'm a church planter at heart. I'm not the mega church pastor you are. I'm
a church planter at heart too.
Yeah, you are, but
no. So
I like small stuff.
Okay, let's talk about that then.
Yeah,
let's talk about that.
Okay.
For most people that haven't heard from you in a while or haven't heard of you, which is
sure.
A mainland audience probably. How did you get your start with ProSide?
Well, I was with Grace Bible Church Honolulu, and I was serving a great man, Sam Webb. And the plan was for me to take over the mother church.
Okay.
And we just couldn't, after about 10 months, my wife and I couldn't make it fit. Like it wasn't our assignment. At that time, a man you and I know well that's influenced us in our past, Ralph Moore, we became friends, and the church planting bug got in me. And I just realized that was the reason why we couldn't make inheriting the mother church the fit. So in October of 1994, after a series of small groups were planted, we opened a public service, and away we went. October 1994. Yeah, and it's been a ride ever since. Best decision I ever made. It's not all been smooth and a joy. There's been pain and suffering and all the things that go into our journey, Mike. But what a
Well, we don't
what a
share that
ride,
too
what a
often, do we?
story. What's that?
We don't share that too often publicly, do we?
No, we don't. And so I just
It's
self-edited.
a fraternity. It's just we self-medicate. we find people to talk to.
If you guys want to pay us, we'll tell you some juicy
We'll
stuff.
tell you, some of them have experienced it as well, but some of them haven't. I mean, there's been some crazy stuff.
Well, you know when we're
Crazy
done, Mike,
stuff.
you and I, let's co-author a book that will be a New York Times bestseller.
What do we
It will
call
go
it?
beyond leadership pain,
Yeah.
right?
Sam
That you're
Chan.
in.
Yeah.
You're in that book,
Yeah.
right? And but anyway, all joking aside, that's how it happened.
Yeah.
And it's still alive more than ever inside of me.
We'll call the book the Devil in the Sixth Row.
Ooh.
The Devil in the Sixth Row.
Why that title?
Oh, the seventh row? I don't know. This plants, the enemy plants people into, sometimes to disrupt what God is trying to do. Anyway, that might not go over so well. So you started in 1994.
Yes, as a lead pastor. I was 40.
Okay, so from what I know of your journey, you can interject at any point. Okay, so you came out of the entertainment world. You got saved during the Jesus People movement,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so you were a nightclub drummer with a band. That's where you got your rhythm and your game.
Oh, I'm black on the inside.
You black on the inside?
Yes,
Me too.
I am.
Me too.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when you think about, so you get saved, you start going to church. There's a call of God in your life. You're a school teacher at a small Christian school. You are a youth pastor and a great leader under Pastor Sam Webb at the Grace Bible Churches. Ralph Moore comes into your life, starts to mentor you. Mm-hmm. He's all about church planting. Mm-hmm. And so now you've got this DNA in you. So now instead of taking over the mother church, you go plant a church. You go to Homilani Elementary School.
Momilani.
Momilani.
And I was a youth, but I was a college young adult pastor more specifically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that college young adults and youth pastors eventually make the best senior pastors?
I do. Unequivocally.
Me too.
Undoubtedly, because you get to pastor a church within a church.
Exactly.
And you have to learn to communicate clearly and well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then from that elementary school, you guys are growing. Is it incremental or is it exponential?
It is incremental.
Okay.
There were two churches that were arguably in that period of time growing fairly quickly, us and a church called New Hope, obscure church.
Small
on the
church,
other side of the
little
island.
church nobody heard of.
We were blowing up with rough kids. That's
Just
our
kidding.
story.
Right? Rough kids.
Yeah, young people.
Rough kids.
People that nobody wanted.
Okay.
Pastor Wayne Cordero had all the people I wanted.
Isn't that the story of our life?
And
but now we got all the people everybody else wants.
Yeah, and I say this wherever I go. I have a lot of. I'm waiting for Wayne to call me.
I love to poke fun at one of the best pastors Hawaii's ever had.
Oh heck, I poke fun at all of them.
And it's not like I'm not tearing him down. I'm actually poking fun out of really, because most people who don't understand this in Hawaii, we don't tear people down. We actually poke fun at them because we actually admire them.
That's right.
We admire them.
Yeah, because we're secure. We're not afraid of poking fun at them.
No, and we love Wayne. And so Wayne, I told Wayne, Pastor Wayne, if you ever in Hawaii, man, come back. From Eugene, come preach at my church.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, I will. I
said,
this
podcast.
Yeah, I said, but don't take anybody with you. He goes, no, I'll take all the people. I'll take everybody back with you. Everybody that he's like.
I love our relationship, Mike, because we can't be territorial. I mean, we've been good friends, and I say this wherever I go. I've said it maybe several times in the last month. I said, Inspire Church is our other campus, and you tell me, no, you're our other campus. And then I say, but at one point in 2018, I counted 211 people left Pearlside to come to Inspire.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
So
because they were really great people. And we counted 11 people that came from Inspire to Pearlside.
Wow.
And so the inequity of the exchange.
I love the data.
No, and I love it because I'm saying it's God's church.
Yeah.
He shuffles the deck.
He does.
And why would we want to keep those who don't want to stay? All he's doing is creating people a better fit for people.
Yeah. And what people don't realize is your church and my church are about 2.5 to 3 miles away from each other.
Yeah.
And you've got thousands, we have thousands.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
No, it's inheritance. And there's Joe and Asai, our good brother. He's
that's
walking
one of my
distance
church plants
from our
too.
church. And
That's
he's
one of my
between
church
us.
plants as well.
There you go.
We planted a lot of people in that church.
Everybody.
Manna Church, a lot of churches.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we planted a lot of churches, Mike.
But we hold people loosely.
That's right.
But staff, that's a different story. No, it's kidding. We hold people loosely. We hold them loosely because we don't own them, right?
That's true.
At the end of the day, we're
That's true.
we're shepherds.
It's called the transfer portal.
Yes, the transfer portal. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Don't get me started on the transfer
But
portal.
without the NIL factor.
Right. So if some of you guys are wondering, what's the transfer portal? Well, before, if you sat out and you wanted to go to another college to play football or basketball or any sport, you'd have to sit out a year, and then you had to redshirt a year, and then you could get in and play. Mm-hmm. But today, the transfer portal has made it possible for any sport, for any student athlete to just decide, I don't want to go to this college anymore. Maybe that's a better offer there.
Sure.
And they go into the portal, and now colleges are recruiting from the portal and not as much in the high schools and the junior colleges. They're just about, they're going to be done pretty soon.
And they're paying the players.
They're paying their players, right? So we know one really great Hawaii quarterback. I think he got $1 million. Good for him to go from Oklahoma to Oregon. Is that right? $1 million in college. Good for him. Get all you can. But I think they've taken away the purity, what level of purity that we thought that there was.
The long-term concern, like we develop young leaders,
right,
is if they get too much too soon, we short-circuit the development of character.
Exactly. Yeah. So the transfer portal is wide open when it comes to people in churches. If they feel like they're called to go somewhere else, they're called.
Sure. I mean, because God's doing that.
Yeah. But the most important thing, Pastor, to me, is if you're planted, right? You get planted. Yeah. And then you'll flourish. Yes. You'll flourish.
Yes.
So was it hard for you if people were going to your church for like 10, 15, 20 years, and at some point they say, I think I want to go to another church?
Yes. It was hard in the beginning.
It's hard. It's still kind of hard for me.
Yeah.
I don't lose sleep over it, but it bothers me.
Yeah. Well, if you feel like they're yours and God planted them in your house, because we pastors have that instinct, then we should be bothered because we feel like there's a disobedience factor involved, a missing the best that God has factor. So that's what makes a shepherd. Sheep stray. That's different as opposed to sheep going or sheep being sent. But as a church planter in those first 5 years with New Hope and Pastor Wayne blowing up, and we had the garage band for worship. In fact, we didn't even have a garage. Every time we'd cobble together a decent worship team that could actually hold a note, play music, not sing flat, they'd all end up at New Hope.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the biggest stress that we had.
Because he was such a Pied Piper in the arts side of things.
Oh, no. New Hope today,
the production,
till this day.
The
incredible.
production, right?
Yeah.
So people gravitated toward that. They loved that.
I could understand that.
I could understand that too. But
I hated it though, but I understood it.
Yeah, like we got started a lot later after you, in 2001 for us. And
not that much later.
We had some good worship leaders. We had some really good worship leaders, actually. When I think about Rodney Arias.
Oh, no.
I think about Randall Kalama.
Yeah.
But there was a season where the cupboard wasn't stocked.
Bare. Yeah.
It was bare. The cupboard was bare. And but today, I think the misconception people have about our church that we are a production, but we're not. Like we hardly do hula.
Yeah.
We pull out the hula like 3 times a year at the most. We don't do no sign language. We rarely have any drama. We just save those things for the holidays. By the way, this young man right here.
Right.
He's a thespian. He's great.
Wow.
And a worship leader. And his brother is at your church. What's your brother's name?
Darius.
You know Darius? Tellez?
Tellez. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's his brother.
Yeah.
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 That's the one Tellez we let get away.
I will say this, there's enough to go around. We can't have scarcity mentality.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And having said that, I got over it pretty quickly. I realized this is God's church.
Yeah.
And I have to let go of my musician pride.
Okay.
Because that's what it is. We musicians, we're a proud, arrogant lot on the inside.
Yeah.
Right.
Snobby.
But after that, I just realized with all the gang wars we were having, the violence, the deliverances, that was our assignment. And as soon as I accepted our assignment, I was fine. But getting there a couple years in took a while. God had to dig me out, my character, humble me, and get me to realize, what I have for you, at least in this season, is not what you want. But if you don't accept it, I'm going to give this church to someone else. I had the Lord really speak that to me. And that was the turning point. That was the turning point.
So how did because I remember hearing that you were feisty when you were younger.
I still am feisty.
You still are feisty.
It's just older feisty.
But the younger version, was that needed to be shaped? Like the church planter Norman?
Definitely. And I'm a third generation product of Kalihi, not Kahala. Right?
Yep.
And so, you're from what? Kohala?
Honoka'a. No, I'm just a chaplain.
Kohala would have been better. Kohala,
I'm just
Kalihi.
the chaplain of the Kohala High School basketball team.
I saw that.
3 years in a row.
Good for you.
I love it.
Big Island team. You talk about feisty. Big Island basketball teams, I followed them for years. Feisty.
Kohala High School, 246 students.
Is that it?
9th to 12th grade.
Such a great brand of ball.
Great ball. Patient.
Because they're feisty.
They're feisty.
They're feisty.
They run like nobody's business. They play defense like nobody's business, and they are patient.
Well,
and it's short.
So you're like them. That's why you spiritually lead them. So the Lord showed me. I said, why am I getting all these kids? I mean, they were driving in from Maili, Nanakuli, Makaha, Waianae, Kalihi, Waimanalo. No, honestly, it's like God was cherry picking the most challenging young people and sending them way up on the hill where it's hard to find the school.
It's hard to find that school.
So it was God, and I said, Lord, John Maxwell writes the law of attraction. I'm nothing like them. I'm a skinny Asian. And then, that still small voice. I'm looking in the mirror. I said, Lord, it's stressful. My kids even don't want to come to church. It's, Dad, I'm scared. Oh, because we'd have fights. We'd have demonic manifestations. And
yeah, you did.
The Lord said, no, you're just like them. That's why they're coming.
Yeah.
That's why I'm sending them.
Yeah.
It's not what you look like on the outside. It's who you are on the inside. Essentially, the Lord was saying, you're actually a moke. A
moke. I get it.
You were shaped in Kalihi, not Kahala. You look on the outside like Kahala.
Yeah.
But on the inside, you're Kalihi, and they can tell you understand them, you relate to them, and you connect with it. Once I accepted that, things changed.
We all had to pastor in the shadow of New Hope.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
now everyone pastors in the shadow of Inspire.
No. And I remember saying to myself, how can we can't compete against that?
We're not supposed to.
I know, but I know we're not supposed to, but we had no air conditioning.
Check.
Okay. I couldn't sing, and he could read the phone book and people would get saved. I mean, he was just so eloquent.
No.
And they had the production amazing. Yeah. And what I'm saying is, I know the Lord said, no, you're not to compete. You need to find out who you are.
That's right.
What kind of leader are you? And just be comfortable in your own skin, being you. Of course, you got to change. Of course, you're rough around the edges, and maybe you can work on sermons and be a better leader, but find out who you are.
Yeah.
It's one of the most important things that I had to do.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. What was the biggest barrier of growth you had to pass? Was it 500, 700, 1,000? What was it for you?
I never really thought about that.
We never read Lyle Shaller's book on church growth or anything like that? Did anybody tell you about the 200 barrier? Or
the 200 barrier I knew was significant,
okay.
And I think I experienced that, Mike. I think you did too. That's a hard barrier to break. It's true. But once you get past that, there's momentum. It's almost like God prunes and digs out the character of the church pastor and lead planter. Mm-hmm. And it takes getting past the 200 barrier for God to dig you deep.
Yeah.
And then after that, he can trust you with growth.
Mm-hmm.
He can trust you. And say, can you keep your eye on the mission, which is reach the lost, love the unlovely. And that's the thing about growing up in Kalihi. All of us who grew up in areas like that, we have a heart for people, the underdog. That's you, Mike. I know that's you, Kohala, right? Right? Not Kamehameha, although Lenny went there.
No.
Your brother.
My brother, yeah.
Yeah, and you could have.
I could have.
You could have.
I didn't want to. I didn't want to board. I wanted to be a boarder.
So, obviously, to this day, let's look at our churches. I come to Inspire. I swear.
You swear in the church?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I once talked to Mike Lewin. We were talking, and he had a huge church, right? We were all in those kind of. I said, man, Mike's got such beautiful looking people. And Mike's going, I got all the mokes. I said, Mike, you don't have all the mokes. We have the other mokes. And I'm just saying, when I say mokes, I'm saying just a broad spectrum of Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody pursuant to their geography, proximity, context, and location, will have a certain makeup. But also people are drawn to who you are on the inside. They can tell. They connect with that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that's a beautiful thing.
It is. So I see, and I can tell that if you're stuck at a certain level for a long period of time, there can be frustration, maybe a little bit of discouragement.
Yeah, you wrote the book Plateaus.
Yeah. Oh, this guy's awesome. Yeah. Let me ask you a question. What is the advice that you give guys who come in, they sit down with you and say, man, Pastor, I don't know, we're not growing. I'm having a hard time. I don't know if it's my building. I don't know if it's me. I don't know. What kind of advice do you give somebody that feels like their church, they as the leader, they're stuck?
Well, we can't make the church grow. God grows the church. We make disciples. Scripture is clear. So we're faithful in just making disciples. The church will grow automatically. But I think sometimes, especially in the West, we think we're in control and we try to jury-rig the growth process when actually it's just, you sow in one, you taught this, you sow in one season. If you keep sowing faithfully, you'll grow in the next season. But sometimes people want to grow in every season because maybe we've seen the megachurch stories, right? That's why a book like yours, like Plateaus, is so important, because seasons vary and there's seasons of consolidation, going deeper, the inner work before God brings the outer growth. And as you age and we grow and when we mature, we understand that more, right? I believe this. Maybe it's just me. I think God preordains the size of a church based on her assignment and mission. I felt like the Lord spoke to me one day because I've always wanted to be taller, bigger, have more muscles like you. I want to be better looking, right? We all want to look like a Wayne Cordero, mikekai with the hapahale blood, all this kind of stuff. And you know what? I don't care how much creatine I take. I don't care how much protein shakes I drink. I don't care how much I get on the stretch rack. I'm not going to be taller. I'm not going to be buffer. And I'm still 5'5", right? And I'm a little skinnier now. I'm 125 pounds because God ordained me to be small. I'm never going to be Jonah Sai, mikekai, Wayne Cordero, Ralph Moore, Art Sepulveda. I'm just small, right? I believe this.
That's amazing. Because I kind of have this theory. And maybe the theory is wrong. Maybe it doesn't stay on this podcast. But people tend to fall taller people.
Yes, they do. It's proven.
It's proven, okay.
It's proven.
And for someone 5'5" to command such a big presence, you do. Like, if I wasn't at my church, you'd be my pastor. Okay? I mean, if I wasn't pastoring this church, you would be my pastor. Okay? If there was no Inspire Church, you'd be my pastor. I got that. Yeah. Wow. But there is an Inspire Church.
Well, so. I can sleep well tonight, go home now. Let's end the podcast. That's quite an honor, Mike.
But you're you're huge on the inside. Like, to be able to be a chaplain of a football team.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
People wonder about that.
Right. So my friend Travis Hearn, he's preaching here this weekend. Impact Church in Scottsdale, Arizona. His brother works there. That's the other tellers where they get away.
Big time.
But we got the best tellers, just saying. When you think about it, Pastor Travis is the chaplain to the Phoenix Suns.
Wow.
And the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
He had to give up the Arizona Diamondbacks because it was too much. I already think it's too much. That's a lot.
Yeah.
But he has such influence. And I don't think he's taller than 5'10". I could be wrong.
Well, that's a decent height.
In Hawaii. But what I'm saying is, these football players and basketball players, they're responding to character. They're responding to integrity. They're responding to someone who is secure.
Sure. And love.
And loved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most important one. Most important one. Because whenever, like, I'm taller than these Kohala boys. You know what I mean? Well, maybe one kid's taller than me. It's not about height.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all about heart.
Yes. Oh, there's a tweet.
There's a tweet.
Yeah.
There's a tweet.
No. Yeah. I think people know, they experience who you are on the inside.
Yeah.
But as it relates to church growth, I've had some talks with young pastors who are frustrated. I said, when you sleep, in the natural, you grow. And when you're at rest, God works. And that's the moment. They go, oh, if you're working too hard, it's you doing all the work. Scripture says clearly, you just be faithful, making disciples, God will grow the church. And there are seasons of growth, just like there are growth spurts.
Yeah.
In a human body, the body of Christ is the same way. And I think that brings a real sense of rest. I am amazed that we grew to the size we were. We continue to grow. But what the Lord also showed me is you may not be able to grow in one body. You can plant other bodies, and that's how you can keep growing. Not this way, but you can grow this way. And you know, like we have kids and grandkids and great-grandkids.
Yeah.
And so that marked my journey kind of early on, you know, that we wanted to grow to plant churches, start sites, turn them into churches, if the Lord so led. And that was liberating because then I focused on developing leaders, other leaders. And then training and releasing, training and sending.
Well, I'm telling you, there were so many gems. Talk about finding someone in your own backyard, and sometimes we overlook some of those things, don't we? We always look somewhere else, that there's got to be someone else doing it better somewhere else, maybe because they have a different accent. You know what I'm talking about? But I'm so glad to have him. Norman Nakanishi. Go check out his blog at normannakanishi.com. I'm sure you can spell that out, normannakanishi.com. And watch his blog, read his blog, incredible. And don't forget to go to mikekai.tv. I would love for you to check out The Great Life or whatever resources we have there. Until the next podcast, hey, take care. God bless you. Keep contending for revival in Jesus' name. Aloha.